Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. Welcome to the Vegan World 2026 Moonshot podcast. This is a special edition of the 7 days of rest and sacred renewal. And we are on day 7, which is the rainbow day. And we have this has all been organized by the Million Vegan Grandmothers and Grandfathers. So we have grandmothers and grandfathers here, rainbow grandmothers and grandfathers here to pledge to the world that we are here to heal the planet. And we're going to be doing everything we can to heal the planet. So, and rainbow foods are at the heart of it. So, welcome, Tami. Take it away.
Thank you. Well, today, I welcome you all with love and sacred renewal. And today on the 7 days of rest is celebration. And if you haven't already registered, please still register. One of my dear friends did an offering of sound therapy. His name is Sebastian, and his celebration music that he completely was given through the grace of spirit and his connection with Shelley. He said that she held such deep space that he was able to have this music come through. So please still register for 7 days of rest and watch and be present to this day of celebration. And today we're going to celebrate rainbow food. I've been discussing that when we buy packaged stuff, what really grabs us is the color. So, we want to cut back on all this infused water and this packaged salads and blah, blah, blah. But what our spirit and our soul is gravitating towards is the color. And we showed you throughout this 7 days how quickly and easy it is to make some infused waters that taste so amazing and way better than anything you're going to get in a package. We've showed you how to make some beautiful different seed and nut milks and ways to infuse those seed and nut milks. And I took one of the seed milks I made yesterday and I turned it into a chia pudding in my fridge last night. So this is the milk with a couple tablespoons of chia seed, some wild blueberries, and I have a little bit of pieces of date that I had left over soaking and a few pieces of coconut flake. This will be 2 days worth of breakfast for me. Chia seeds really help the body retain water. Anything from the desert does that. So here we're celebrating some of the milk, the white food we had yesterday, and turning it into sacred color food, such as the quinoa that we cook. And if quinoa settles well with you, and if you have access to quinoa, I'm going to show you a real quick little tip. So let's say that you have a food processor. I actually do love my food processor with the S-Blade because I don't want to spend lots of time in the kitchen sometimes, but I love the color. So this morning I only spent a few minutes in the kitchen and I did this combination of all these different colored cabbages and carrots that I'm going to turn into a rainbow sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is so easy. Everyone that comes to my live food classes say, I had no idea it would be so easy. And then when you're coming on to this podcast, if you're watching it afterwards, the photo you see on the front is actually raw tacos. And when I teach my food class, the raw tacos end up being the most popular dish, I'm telling you. So I just take a couple pieces of romaine lettuce, okay? Now we made some vegan cheese this week. This was a hemp heart cashew cheese. And then I ended up fermenting it with some EM, because I really recommend everyone get a bottle of EM1. It's a probiotic that you can culture 20 times over. Each serving, you can culture it 20 times over. So literally, you're going to have EM forever and ever, and you're going to share it with everyone. Because this day is about celebration, and celebration is about sharing. Celebration is about renewal. Celebration is about valuing and restoring and deep nutrition. Everything that 7 days of rest stands for. So we have our cheese we made, and I'm just going to spread a little wee bit into our, look at this, just into our romaine leaf. I discovered something else this week that I didn't know. I love fresh food, so I usually try to eat everything fresh. But I discovered that avocados actually freeze really well. I ended up having this abundance of food. I tried to offer it to a couple communities that didn't come and pick it up. And so I had a whole bunch of avocados. I put them in the container. I spread a whole bunch of fresh lemon juice on them, and I put them in the freezer. They still taste amazing when I thawed them. So I learned that avocados freeze actually really well. I was quite surprised. So I'm going to take some of these avocados that I froze, and I'm going to spread them onto this romaine, piece of romaine for my raw taco. Now I have already used the food processor to cut up some salads. So let's say you're serving a salad for dinner. What I did is I took the different colored food that I processed and I made a rainbow salad in a jar. A little bit of extra pieces that I had, a little bit of extra salad that I had, and I put it in layers in the jar to take with me when I leave later on today because I won't be home for supper. But right now, I'm going to show you, we didn't make this, but this recipe for my raw tacos is going to be on our Food Rainbow people Facebook support group. So this is walnut meat. All it is walnuts in my food processor with a red pepper and some smoked paprika. And I like to add just a little bit of miso to give it that nice smoky kind of little bit salty taste. I'm in Canada, so I do use a little bit of salt. It is incredibly dry here, incredibly dry. So I'm going to spread my walnut meat. And what I'm going to tell you right now is you can add anything to your raw taco, but I do like this walnut meat, and you can use any nuts or seeds. Here we go. Now I'm just going to sprinkle some of the cabbage, the purple and yellow cabbage. The purple cabbage and yellow carrot that I food processed this morning. Bing, bang, boom, just that's how quickly it is processed. A little bit of my carrot, making my rainbow tacos. And then I'm just going to top it up with a little bit of tomato. Isn't that gorgeous? Let a little bit fall on the plate. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to overfill it because it'll be hard to eat. And then you'll just, I'm going to put a video up of me making raw tacos, which I did on my last food class, and I recorded it. So doesn't that look amazing? And then I'm just going to take some lime. I love this little squeezer here. And I'm going to squeeze a bit of lime juice on it. And that's it. That's it. And if I was serving a whole meal for a family, watch this. If I wasn't taking this jar of rainbow salad to go, I would open it up and I would put it on my plate and I would just gently start to spread it across my plate so that I had a rainbow salad right beside the tacos. Take a look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Wow, what a rainbow. Color is therapy. Wouldn't it be gorgeous to serve to your friends? You can sprinkle a little bit of hemp hearts on it. So that's that. Now, I am going to I cut up a few pieces of cucumber and lettuce and cabbage, and I'm going to do the same to this bowl. I'm going to put a little bit of the quinoa that I had cooked. In order to be prepared, I like to keep a grain, like some lentils already cooked in the fridge, a little bit of quinoa, and then I can slightly heat those and still eat predominantly raw food, but warm up my salad so I'm not eating a cold salad in the winter. So I'm going to put a little bit of quinoa in here. I'm going to take a little bit of my rainbow salad I had left in my jar. And I'm just going to put that on the side of my Buddha bowl. I call this my Buddha no belly bowl. So all these different options for our food. I'm going to take a little bit of my avocado. And I have a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Some people don't use any apple cider vinegar, but this is an herb-infused apple cider vinegar. I infused with some Italian seasoning, some organic Italian seasoning. And I'm going to put a little bit of our vegan cheese just for that zest and that nip, that bite, right onto my lettuce. So here we go. That quickly, we have some stuff processed, some not processed, but food processed. The different colors of the rainbow. And we made a Buddha bowl. We made a raw taco and a rainbow salad. Another jar of rainbow food. Isn't that gorgeous? This will last in your fridge for 3 or 4 days, especially if you squirt on a fair bit of lemon or lime juice because they're natural preservatives. And then, as I promised, I'm going to give a quick demo on how easy it is to make sauerkraut. We're going to make a rainbow sauerkraut. So here's some carrots.
Before you go, Tami, there's one question in the chat.
Yes.
Can you make vegan cheese recipes without cashews?
Yes. In fact, I make a lot of mine with seeds because cashews aren't local to me. But there's a lot of sunflowers that grow here in hemp hearts. So I often make my cheeses and my milks with sunflowers and hemp hearts because they're a local product for me. And a lot of people, and they can be made with any kind of seed. A lot of people are allergic to nuts and they forget that they can have seeds. And there's a lot of places where you buy your organic and fresh, non-radiated seeds, and you can have them not mixed or processed with nuts. So yes, absolutely. So we can make them with sunflower and hemp hearts. We can make our cheeses with almonds. We can make them with anything, but just really consider buying organic, all those. A friend of mine in California had to move away from where there was an almond orchard because the sprays were making her really sick. So be aware, just because it's almonds, it doesn't, and raw almonds they advertise doesn't mean they're good for you if they're sprayed quite heavily, actually. So really important to look at that. Great. So I have my rainbow vegetables, but you can use any vegetable. If all you have is a green cabbage, you can just make a green cabbage sauerkraut. Or if you had a purple cabbage. And pretty well any vegetable goes in this, except I don't like onions and garlic. You won't like that on the fermented process, how it smells. I'm adding in a bowl about this size, a teaspoon of salt. And I'm gonna just put my camera down here for a minute. And I'm gonna show you what I do here. All I'm going to do is massage this. And what happens is, as you massage it longer and longer and longer, as you break down what's called the cellulose is in all vegetables, okay? But as you break down the cellulose in cabbage, people don't think of cabbage as having a lot of water, but it does. Some places, cabbage is like a complete food. It heals so much. In Germany, for many, many decades, they use cabbage juice to heal stomach ulcers, and they're gone in 3 days. So food is medicine. Look at, I just started massaging this. And you see the juice coming out of there? We want to break down the cellulose so the juice starts to come out of the cabbage. The salt will do that. The salt also helps it ferment instead of rot. So we do need a little bit of salt for sauerkraut. And it's just perfectly fine to have that little bit of salt in your diet if you're, especially in a fermented food. Because literally all you're going to need for this is a teaspoon of sauerkraut for your meals to really help your meals digest. When I did my master's in live food nutrition, I specialized in metabolic health and disease and the microbiome. And the research on sauerkrauts and kimchi and fermented foods to help people heal, to rid them of all kinds of bacteria, so much research, so much research involved. If anybody wants to contact me, I'd be happy to send my master's thesis. Then we're going to take a wide mouth 1 liter jar. This is it, people. This is how easy it is to make sauerkraut. So as soon as it starts to break down like this, you're going to stuff it and fill it into a 1 liter jar. Press it down because you need to have it pressed. You know, in the old fashioned ways of making sauerkraut, they would use a big crock pot and then they would put a lid on it of some kind and weigh it down with a stone. I'm going to be a little bit short of cabbage for this 1 liter jar. But what I would normally do is have it full of cabbage. So this would be enough for a 1/2 liter jar, but I'll fill this up later. But I just want to show you as I'm pushing this down, you could start to see the liquid coming up. You need to have the liquid covering the cabbage. So normally I would have this right full, but I ran a little bit out of cabbage. Then I would save a few outside pieces of the cabbage, because this is what I'm going to use to press down the jar. And I'm going to stuff it in here, but normally the cabbage would be a little bit fuller. I would just top it up with a little bit of purified water. I would put the lid on. Now you can just imagine this full and the cabbage kind of hitting the cabbage leaves kind of hitting the lid. I put this lid on and I put a jar underneath it because it might bubble over a slight bit. And you're going to leave it on your counter for about 5 days, and you're just going to loosen it slightly every day. And then I'm going to let you see my face again. You're going to loosen it just slightly every day and then close it again. It's kind of called burping it, and you're letting the air out. So normally the cabbage would be up to here. Then the leaves would be the weight that's pressing down on the lid. Make sure you top it up with a bit of water and burp it once a day. And you're going to have sauerkraut in 5 to 7 days, just on your counter. So whenever you go to make your cabbage salad is a staple around here because it'll last in my fridge for a very, very long time. And so often when I'll make a cabbage salad, every 5 days, I'll do a dark sauerkraut and have a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons with my meals. So there's my demo with my hands. Thank you. And I'm really grateful to have Judy Carmen here and Zambe. And I'm wondering, Judy, would you like to share a little bit on the Homo Ahimsa, what that means, what the coined term Homo Ahimsa means, a little bit about your spiritual practice, chakra meditation, and just our energy centers of our body, and how you've, as a very, very long time advocate. Thank you, Judy, for your work.
Before we get off the subject, there's one question for you, Tami.
Okay.
Do you have to sterilize the jar before making the sauerkraut? Herbert Lloyd Bell asks.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I rinse out my jars really well. I don't sterilize. I don't use any chemicals when I clean my stuff. I use 7-generation soap. I use a little bit of vinegar if I have a bit of grease. That's all I use for cleaning my entire house. And anything that might be, when people are preserving food for a long time, they're actually pickling it. So they're using vinegars and stuff like that. That is not a probiotic food. That is not a traditional probiotic food. And then they often put it in heat to seal the jars. That's not what we're doing here. We're making a traditional probiotic food that's only going to last for a couple months in your fridge instead of a year or 2 years on a shelf. That's when people have to sterilize their jar, because they're actually using vinegar and they're trying to seal it for a year or 2. We're using an actual live probiotic that is coming out of the vegetables into this salt brine. So we're using a salt brine. Another thing I can do with this is I can fill it up all the way with cut up cucumbers and add a little bit of apple cider vinegar and some natural pure water and some salt. And I'll have pickles in 2 days on my counter, just a natural pickle. But when people have to sterilize their jars, it's because they're trying to preserve food as opposed to make a probiotic food. I hope that answers your question. Okay, and I see in the chat that Zambe said vegan cheeses can also be made with carrots and potatoes. Great. Maybe you could show us that one time. I would love that in this month of our Rainbow Food, Rainbow People. You could do a little vegan carrot and potato cheese. So, Judy, take it away. Thank you.
So, I've got a question too, Tami. Since you just eat a tablespoon a day of the probiotic, so how long you start refrigerating it at that point then, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, yes,
okay.
5 to 7 days, I start refrigerating it. And
Okay.
I mean, you can eat more than that. I'm saying for people that are absolutely no salt people, like I use a little bit of Himalayan salt in my food still. I was never trained that that small amount of raw salt added to your food at the end. I'm not talking about cooking with salt. I'm not talking about the terrible salts that people are using. And I'm not even saying I'm promoting salt. I'm saying that I thrive on a little bit of salt in my really, really dry climate. So I'm saying that people that maybe don't do any salt at all, they don't really need very much of that sauerkraut to get a lot of benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks. So are there any other questions, Silas, before I go on for Tami?
No, it's
Okay.
yours. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and you wanted me to talk a little bit about Homo Ahimsa. I have a book out called Homo Ahimsa, Who We Really Are and How We're Going to Save the World. And Silas also talks about Homo Ahimsa on his Vegan World 2026 work. And so basically, it is ahimsa, first of all, means in Sanskrit means non-harm. And literally, that's the literal definition of it. For non and himsa for harm. And so by putting the two words homo ahimsa together, we're putting Latin and Sanskrit together in a way to bring cultures together in a whole new way and basically leave Homo sapiens behind in our journey towards a higher consciousness, which is where we're heading right now. What's happening in the world right now is a big kick to all of us to take this journey to higher consciousness because we're running out of time, as everyone knows. And the sixth extinction, all the things that are going on now are signals. We don't have any more time. But the great news, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. The great news is that, as I have in my title, we are already Homo Ahimsa. That's who we really are. But what we have been living like for the last 10,000 years since animal agriculture began, we've been living as Homo sapiens, and we have fooled ourselves. We've been programmed by the mindset of domination, that we have the right to dominate and control all of life. And as everyone who's listening in knows well, we can see around us that that never worked. Domination did not work. It is a failed experiment, and we have proof all around us. And so, as I said, and very, very fortunately, blessedly, we have Homo Ahimsa within us. That is our true nature. That is why when Silas asks people in an audience, would any of you on purpose harm an animal? No one raises their hands, because deep inside of us, we are all kind, loving creatures, and we want to get along. We want to live in harmony, and we always have. But we have been programmed by these old ideas of domination and control and separation. And we have somehow got to become godlike and in order to control all these animals and all the plants and everything around us. But we know where that got us. And even though it's a really sad place to be, to look around and see the damage that's been done, it's a, like I said, it's a kick in the pants. We can't wait any longer. It's time, and it's pretty hard to find anyone who could deny that. So what I have got in my book and what Silas talks about on the Vegan World 2026 website quite a bit is, what does Homo ahimsa look like? And what does that mean for our future as a species and for the world? Because we're trashing the world now. We're going to stop doing that now. And by 2026, this world is going to have completely turned around and changed trajectory away from the domination paradigm to the cooperation paradigm, the caretaking paradigm. Totally different, but we're all prepared for it. We have that within us to do that. And so that's what's so exciting. We're actually, all these years we've been dreaming about this paradise and the heaven that we could create and wondering, is it even possible? Now we've got our chance to actually do it. But we've got to, a big part of this, and I think kind of what Tami has been doing all week is showing us, okay, here's what we do with food. Number one, we do no harm as we get our food together. And number two, we make our food beautiful and nourishing and healthy so that we can be healthy and carry on this work. And so she has given us a glimpse into what this Homo ahimsa world is going to look like. And when I say Homo ahimsa world, I mean a vegan world, because obviously we can't have a non-vegan world and have peace on earth. The sages have been telling us that for thousands of years. We will never have peace on earth until we give it to the animals, the plants, and the earth. And so I'm excited because I can see what this is going to look like. And we all need to be visualizing this. What does it look like? What does a slaughterhouse look like in a vegan world? Well, it could be a place where Tami could cleanse it and grow sprouts and raw food and all these wonderful things. It could be a great, huge greenhouse after being cleansed and purified and blessed and given its new life. What would zoos look like? They will look like beautiful sanctuaries for animals where no one comes to gawk at them and or breed them or use them or sell them, or any of those things, where they will be taken care of if they can't survive in the wilderness, or they'll be released, like hopefully Lolita will be very soon, from the horrible place she's in Florida. So we're seeing the damage we've done. We know we have the capacity of Homo ahimsa within us. And so here we go. We're going to do it. Visualizing is really important, and Tami has really helped us do that. Silas is really helping us do that with Vegan World 2026. And so let's hang in there, believe we can do it, and go forward.
Thanks, Judy. There's a question for you from Miles. She's asking, Carl Jung basically said we are Homo ahimsa too. So are you familiar with Carl Jung, and any comments you have on the connections?
I'm very familiar with him, but I didn't know he had used that terminology.
Yeah, he didn't use that term. Yeah, with different words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He was a great teacher and sage as well. And I think he helped move us forward along this path that we're on. But yeah, great question. Thanks.
Also, one of the gifts that my granddaughter gave me when she was born is to help me see that even in the Homo sapiens phase, we were doing something. Like an elephant, when the elephant is breaking branches of trees, it's not being destructive, it's part of nature, because that's where the sunlight streams to nourish the underbrush. In the same way, during our Homo sapiens phase, we heated the earth and we prevented the earth from ever going back to another ice age ever again. And so now we can be a climate regulating species of the planet, because that's our role. And to do that, we need to return back to who we are, which is back to Africa. This is where we came from. Is returning back to our indigenous roots. And that's veganism. That's kindness and compassion for all life. Which brings me to what Nzambe Congo. I'm amazed at your journey. I know you as Melvin, and how did you take on this identity, this African identity of Nzambe Congo, and what does that mean to you?
I guess say evaluations. I'm a social worker, and I've been working with in the behavioral health field. I was working in the behavioral health field for about 25 years, but I think about 5 or 7 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I started my own practice, and I do evaluations, substance abuse evaluations. And one of my clients that I met, he's from Angola, and I asked him. He's only been in the United States for 5 years, and we still communicate. In your village, in your tribe, when someone is sick, or the harvest don't come through, or someone is going through a hard time, who do y'all call upon? Who do you pray to? He said, we pray to Nzambe in Congo. He said, that's who we pray to. And I was so, it resonated so strongly with me, because it was just a clear indication that the colonial mindset, colonialism, the dominant colonial religions hadn't penetrated their culture, and they still knew who they were. And when they were having a difficult time and needed solace, I needed answers, I needed that connection, they called on Nzambe Congo. So what he taught me is that all of Angola, Mozambique, the Congo, I think it's Namibia, it was all one country, and it was called the Congo. The word Congo means oneness, means unity. So I had always, for a long time, had been wanting to make that connection with Africa, with the name. And so when he said that, I changed my name to Nzambe Congo. And that sets very well with me. And he also shared with me a lot of aspects of their culture were just so beautiful and touching. In their culture, they have a pan when you're born. You're given this here pan, and all your history is in this pan, and everything you do is in this pan. And it's a beautiful story that he tells of this pan, how you carry this pan through all your life, and how it's interconnected to the earth, to your family, to the shamans, and all that. So I heard Julie say something, and I'm very, it resonated strongly with me, is that we do have to return back to the teachings of the indigenous people. That's the only way forward for us, because they had this innate connection with the earth, and they had science. And this is the irony, that they had science. What's called shamans nowadays, or witch doctors, these people were really scientists. They understood how nature worked, and they understood our connection with nature, that we were one with nature, and there was no separation. And I think it's universally common in indigenous cultures, where there's no separation between humans and nature. There's a sense of oneness. In here in this part of the world, indigenous people, they always call it Mother Earth. It was the same thing. That's a common reference in relationship around the world of indigenous people, where they call it's Mother Earth. And they see trees and animals as their brother, and they take on characteristics of these animals, not only in their dances, but in how they relate to other human beings. So that's how I came to select my name as a Zombie Congo, because it does mean unity, oneness, and that's my journey right now, is to really be a part of all the initiatives and networks across the world that's trying to make this world a better place. We are indeed facing a climate crisis. It's really up on us. We know, we are very cognizant that if we don't make a turnaround real soon, that we're going to hit the tipping point, and we're just going to have to deal with what nature, Mother Nature, put on us. The sad thing is that it's so many people, and I have very dear friends who are good people. They are social activists. They're trying to fight against, they are fighting against injustices and racism and the other income inequality, mass incarceration, police brutality. But there's this disconnect in their minds with climate change, with climate change. And that's the greatest crisis facing us right now. Us, people like us, we know we don't have to 2050. That's what they're going to tell us. Well, by 2050, we could do it. We don't have to 2050, because at the rate that the polar ices are melting, and the ocean acidification, and the cutting down the trees, we just don't have that. We're crossing those planetary boundaries, and once we get to the tipping point, all we can do is just go for the ride. But I'm excited to be a part of this here. I've mentioned this to Tami. When I first got involved, I developed this awareness to fight. I met Sailesh. I said, well, how do you beat these bastards? They're so powerful. They got the army, they got the CIA, they got the scientists, the newspaper, the college professors, everybody, the religious on their side. And that's when he introduced me to veganism. I said, that's how you beat them, through veganism. And it is the most powerful, consequential thing that any one of us could do to fight to make the world a better place. Because going vegan is just it intersects with so many other things. We know that animal agriculture is a leading cause of the destruction of our earth. And just going vegan right there, you're attacking that right there. And what I always tell people this here, what excites me so much about it is you don't need any centralized leadership. And I just can't stand centralized leadership of any kind. You don't need an authority. Just go vegan right there. And they can't come put you in jail for going vegan. They can't take your job for going vegan, But it is just such a powerful thing to do. And when enough of us do it, the concomitant results of this power of going vegan, shaking the animal agriculture industry and all the other industries that's interconnected with the animal agriculture industry is going vegan is just a precondition, the first step to going to changing. And I'm just excited. Every day I think about being a vegan, how I'm fighting these bastards. They're so strong, they're so powerful. I'm fighting them, and that's all I want to do. I want to be in the fight. I say that win or lose, I'm going down swinging. I'm in the fight, and that's what's exciting to me, and that's what motivates me to try to do. This one man, he said, just do good. That's all you got to do. Just do good. And I think being a vegan is that one thing you could do good. But being a vegan is just not about our personal health. It's about living with compassion, and it's about help for the environment and other species. It's the recognition that we are interconnected and interdependent. We humans with the environment and other species. If our well-being is certainly dependent on the well-being of other species in the environment. And as we can see right now, other species, by 2026, they're going to be gone. And a lot of people don't realize if you don't have these animals on Earth, we done too. We doomed too. If you don't have the trees, you're done. We got to have the thriving ecosystems and a healthy biosphere. And veganism is the first step to going toward that. I just wish that everyone felt this here passion about being vegan as we do. But it's our job to introduce it to them gently and do the work that we are doing. In my own family, I have one daughter who kind of making a shift. I have another daughter, she's stuck. She's stuck with it. I just have to just be an example and keep encouraging them. So this thing of trying to get people to make the transition is really a hard struggle to get people to make that personal transition. We just have to stay invigorated and positive and optimistic. That's one thing I get from Silesh. I see this guy throwing down, swinging all the time, and he's swinging with a smile on his face. So we got to just stand and fight and keep swinging. You know, Tami is swinging, Judy, you're swinging, and that's what we got to. We can't stop swinging. You know, we cannot stop swinging. Just stand there, keep doing our thing as vegans, and trying to do good in this here world. And another, I want to give a call out to Shelley. She has really had a very powerful influence on my narrative, the story that I want to tell, and the story that she tells about eco-governance, the Vitality Code, and the codes for the healthy earth. The language that she gives is all about truly compassion, trying to create a culture of peace on this world. I just hope that one day, and that we can all move toward to speaking the language of eco-governance, the Vitality Code, because I really think Shelley really hit the nail on the head with the Vitality Code and eco-governance, and using the code for a healthy earth to help us unify across a national, cultural, and national and cultural values, so that we can be more effective in trying to make this here change. I really like the codes for the healthy earth, and I share them with people who have that open mind. And there's not been one person that I have not shared the codes with who didn't resonate strongly with them, regardless of if they were meat eaters or non-meat eaters, if they were Trumpites. When you speak them codes to them, even the Trumpites, people like that acknowledge the code because they're so powerful, and they hit something that's innate in us. When you say, aspire to do no harm, align your words, your thoughts, and your actions with that which is nourishing for the entire community of life. Nobody argues with that, not even nobody argues with it. So I really appreciate having this opportunity to be with you wonderful people who are so knowledgeable and committed, but yet so humble in what you have to offer, and your deep knowledge that, how well read you are, and how well your knowledge set is so deep, and your experiences are just so broad. And I just feel honored to be here with you. And thank you.
Thank you, Melvin. Thank you, Zambe. You're right. Love conquers all. Love is the strongest force in the universe, and that's what we are planning to demonstrate in the next 5 years. Right? We need to make that happen. Now I'm going to play Shelley's video now that you've brought 7 days of rest. And then we'll end with the video from our children. And finally, a word from our grandchildren. Is that okay? We play that.
It ain't so crazy what I'm about to say. Kindness is here, bake a vegan cake. I'm freedom here, see this happy face. Saving them, we're all family and friends. Because I'm happy when the world is vegan, like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like kindness is the truth. Because I'm happy, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like that's all we want to do. Hey, here come good news, vegans where it's at. We'll give it all we got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, we'll be just fine. Thanks to you, it's the end of killing time. Here's why. Because I'm happy that the world is vegan, like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like kindness is the truth. Because I'm happy, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Yeah, clap along if you feel like that's all we want to do.
We'll be happy when the world is vegan. We'll be happy.
Come join us.
That's the perfect ending.
The perfect ending. That was so beautiful. That was so beautiful. And I topped up my sauerkraut jar and just I pushed down a little bit on the cabbage before I put the lid on. You'll see the water coming out. But if anybody has any questions, they could ask questions on our Facebook group. Thank you so much, everyone, for this amazing week. Both the videos touched me really deeply. You know, tears of the interconnection and then tears of our children. You know, thank you for in a really incredible way started this new year with so much reverence and joy. Thank you.
Tami, I want to thank you, for making this connection with you because, as I mentioned to you, I mentioned before that I'm still on this journey of healing my body with foods and finding out what foods really work for me. And I hope that you have offered to be on this journey with me. So I definitely will be calling up on you to move forward. I got your recipe in for the juices, yeah,
Just for it. Yeah.
infused juices. Yeah, so we definitely going to be moving forward, and I definitely want to do the fast.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for
Thank
an
you.
amazing week.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.